Dear subscribers and viewers, Assalamu alaikum. How are you today? I hope you will enjoy this video. Today's video is about extracting values falling on a line connecting two elements of a matrix and then applying a function to all those elements. So let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I have created the following functions for this purpose. The first function is mtrx indices, which requires an argument called values. This function finds the indices of all the points between given coordinates of a matrix. The second function is endpoints. The same argument is required for this as well. It calculates the number of points falling on that line. But these two functions have already been discussed in detail in my previous video. If you want to know about these functions, you will have to watch that video. Today, I'm going to talk about the following two new functions. The first one is the getvals. This function requires two arguments. First argument is the matrix, and the second is the same thing, that is values, that is the indices of the points on the matrix. This will get all the numbers falling on that line or lines. In my previous video, I discussed about the above two functions, and I told you that those two functions just tell you how many points are there and what are their indices on the matrix. Now today, this getvals function will get the values, actual values from that matrix that fall on those lines. And the second function, apply function, it will apply a function, that is a sum, a square root, a cos, a log, etc. to all those numbers that fall on that line or line. This second function, that is apply function, requires three arguments. The first one is the matrix, the second the same, that is values, and the third argument is the function argument, where you will type the name of the function, that is sum, square root, etc. Wait for the next video. I'm introducing a new function to the apply family. The codes of getvals and apply function will be shown at the end of the video. For example, this is a matrix. In R, matrices are shown like this. It contains rows as well as columns. As you can see, these are the column numbers. This matrix has 11 columns. These are the row numbers, and this matrix has 11 rows. If you want to apply a function on every row of this matrix, for example, you want to sum all these numbers falling in this row, which is 92, and then you want to sum the second row's numbers, third row, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 11th number row. This is called row-wise summation of the elements of the matrix. As you know that we have already a function called apply for this purpose, or there is another function called row sum, which you can use for finding the row-wise sum of the elements of the matrix. Apply function requires three arguments. The first is m, which is the matrix name m. This one means that I am applying the function on rows. One means rows and two means columns. Sum is the function which you are going to apply to all these values. So this function, when you type in your R, it will result in these values. Okay, the same apply function can also be used for finding column-wise summation or square root, or you can apply any other functions to all the columns. For example, here you apply the same function with the same three arguments, but only one difference. That is, here instead of 1, you will type 2, because 1 means rows and 2 means columns. So this will result in this vector, which are the answers of all these column summations. If you want to sum all the elements of the matrix, then there is a simple method. Sum, and then in the parentheses type the name of the matrix. This will sum all the numbers in the matrix. Okay. What if you want to find the sum, or you want to apply a function to the numbers in the diagonal lines, not in the rows, not in the columns, like you want to sum all these numbers falling on these lines? Or in another direction, like on the right side. Or maybe you want to apply a function to numbers falling in a square in a matrix, like the outer square, and then you want the summation of these numbers falling on the second square, are these numbers in the third square, are the fourth square, this one, and the last one. Or maybe you are interested in diamond-shaped squares. You want to find the mean of these numbers: 17, 5, 2, 9, 4, 6, 9, 10, 3, 16, 6, 18, 4, 5, 4, 2, etc. So you want to find the sum, or I want to apply another function like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, cos, sine, log, etc. And maybe you are interested in another diamond, inner diamond, a third diamond, a fourth diamond inside the third diamond, or this one, or this one. Okay, there is another possibility. You want to apply a function on these numbers, falling on these lines of the rectangle, and then on this rectangle, and then on this rectangle. Maybe you are interested in rectangles horizontally, or this one. You may be interested in numbers falling on the lines of these triangles, like these 11, 22, 7, 7, 22, 9, 5, 8, 5, 6, 10, etc. Or maybe an inner triangle, a third triangle, a fourth triangle inside the third one, this one, or this one. So you can apply any function to these numbers falling on the lines of these triangles using my functions, that is getvals and applyfunction. Today we will solve only for single layer, that is for only one square or one triangle only, not all the triangles or all the squares. Let's suppose you have point on 1, 7, that is row number 1 and column number 7, and another point is lying on the row number 7 and column number 1. You have a line that connects these 2 points, and you want these values that fall on this line. Then you will have to use this function getvals. Inside getvals, you will have to provide M, which is the name of this matrix, M. You have saved this matrix in a container called M, and then these two values must be provided in the form of a list. So list of C17 and C71. This will result in these values. So it will extract these values from this matrix, that is 3, 7, 10, 1, as you can see here. If you are not interested in getting the numbers, you are just interested in applying a function to these numbers, then you will have to use apply function. Here this apply function needs 3 arguments: M, which is the name of the matrix or the container in which the matrix is saved, and then these 2 points in the form of list. And the third argument it requires is the function. Here you can use sum, square root, or any other function. This will result in 46. Now let's take another example. Suppose you have point here whose coordinates are 9 and 9. Second point is here with 3, 9 coordinates. The third point is at 3, 3, and fourth point is at 9 row and 3 column. Then you have connected all these dots with lines. It makes a square. And you are interested in getting all the elements of this matrix that falls on these 4 lines. Then you will have to use this function getvals. You will have to provide the name of the matrix, these 4 points in the form of a list. As you can see, this point, that is 9, 9, was provided twice in this list. I have already talked about this in detail in my previous video. You need these points twice because this line goes from 9, 9, 3, 9, and then to 3, 3, and then to 9, 3, and then it comes back to the first point. That's why you will have to provide this 9, 9 twice. If you do not provide this 9, 9, then it will not get these numbers for you, because then it will be an open rectangle, not a closed rectangle. If you provide this twice, then it will consider it a closed loop of rectangle. So it will get these values for you, all the values. But if you do not provide this twice, this 9, 9, then some of these values will not be included in your result. And if you want to apply a function to these values, then you will have to provide M to this apply function, and in the form of list all these numbers. Again, you will have to provide this 9, 9 twice, and then in the last you will have to give the function name, that is mean, for example. And this is the mean of all these numbers that it has obtained. You can also apply your function to the inner square, to this third square, or even to this last number. Now let's take another example. a diamond shape now. So these lines connects these points, and we are interested in numbers that fall on these lines. Then you will have to use this function, and it will obtain these values from the method. And if you want to apply a function to these numbers, then apply function, and the same. Here we have used the standard deviation function. So the standard deviation of all these numbers that fall on the 4 lines is 4.736. You can also apply the same function to the inner diamond, to further inner diamond, and then to the 4th diamond, the 5th diamond, or even to this last number. Let's take the example of horizontal rectangle like this. So the same thing, method is the same. And if you want to apply a function, for example, here we have applied median function. The median of all these numbers that fall on these 4 lines is 5.5. Now a triangle. The syntax is the same. It will get these values that falls on these 3 lines. And if you want to apply a function, here we have applied the max function, which will get the maximum value out of these numbers, that is these numbers. So the maximum value here is 8. Remember here again that this point, that is 99, has been provided twice here because this is a closed triangle. This line comes back towards the first point. If it is open, then you only need to provide these 3 indices, not this twice. You can apply the same functions to the inner triangle, to the 3rd inner triangle, or even to the last number inside. Okay, now an assignment for you. Try yourself to get all the values falling on all the lines of the shape given in the next slide. Also find the mean of all those values. Write down your code in the comment. If you have any simpler formula of mathematics or a simpler code of R in your mind, please mention that in the comment. Okay, so this is the assignment for you. You go from 8 to 4, and then from 4 to this point, that is row number 11 and column number 3. From this point, you go to row number 2 and column number 11, and then back to row number 5 and column number 5. Then you go to the row number 10 and column number 7, then to row number 7, column number 11, then you go to row number 6 and column number 2, then you go back to the first point. So how will you apply any function, for example mean, to all these numbers that fall on these lines? Here you must remember one thing. In previous video I have already talked about that point in detail. Here you can see that this line is crossing this 2 here, and as well as it is touching this line. This is due to the irregular shapes of numbers. If this was not a number, it was a point, then you would see that it was not crossing this point. And here if it was a very small dot and this line was also very thin, then it would not be able to touch this point. So don't just judge by seeing that this, for example, this line is cutting this 18. It doesn't mean that this 18 is in between 4 and 7. This is not the case. Let me overlay points on these numbers. You can now clearly see that this is the point here, and this line is not touching this point, and it is also not touching the point on the 19. Same is the case here. Although this line is touching this 6, but it is not touching the point here, you can see. Also this is touching the number 3, but it is not touching this point. So this 3 is not in between these 2 points. Same is the case here with this point, with this point, with this point. But you don't need to care about these things. This is just for the confirmation, if you want to confirm whether the number you get with using the functions are correct or not. The function will take care of all these situations. It will not take this 18, and it will also not consider this 2, or this 3, because they are not the actual numbers. They are the false things that this line is crossing. Now let me show you the codes. I have already shown you the codes for HCF. HCF is must. You will have to type this function in your editor, because this is the required function for the getvals function as well as for the second function, that is apply function. Similarly, this second function mtrx indices. This is also required for today's two functions. So you will also have to type this third function as well. So this is the code of this function. I have already shown you this code in my previous video, and we have discussed about this in detail. But for the today's functions also you will need these functions, because I have used these functions inside those functions. You don't need this endpoint function. I have created another endpoint too. You also don't need this function. If you want to write this function, you can write, but you do not need this function as well. Okay, this is the function that I told you about today, getvals. So you need to type this function and then run it. It's a very short function, so it will obtain the values. You can see here that it has used the mtrx indices function inside this function. So you will need that function as well. Then let's come to the live function. This is also very short function, and here you can see that for this function you will need the getvals function, because it takes the values from getvals. So first you will have to run this function and then run this function. Then this function will work. So these were the two functions that you will have to type in your script area, and then you will have to select them like this and then press Ctrl Enter. So these functions will be added to your global environment. Now the dedication. These functions, that is today's two functions, are dedicated to all the viewers of this video. If you are watching this video, then thank you very much for your viewing this video. Take care and bye.